Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reading the third and final part of this chapter out of the Bigfoot Terror Tales Vol.1 book called STI'YAHA. So here we go. His father faced the highway where the fence would soon be erected. Standing outside the doorway, he covered his mouth and nose with his hand to save himself from the choking smell. The cold air against his soiled boxers made him distinctly aware he should have changed before coming out. To his left, he noticed the broken branches scattered on the lawn. Inching closer, his back to the house, he reached the edge and peered around the corner to be safe. It was only him and his dad out in the yard, but the closer he moved to the wooden fence separating them from their neighbor's yard, the more shadows there were. He noticed for the first time the wall below his open bedroom window. In the moonlight, he could make out three shallow grooves scratched into the wood paneling. Swallowing hard, he saw his father running toward the highway, shouting Brandon's name. When he noticed the ferns, his mother beloved ferns, she had taken them from Grandma's garden after she passed away, saying they reminded her of her mom. Tonight, they have been tainted. Oh, that is terrible. I'll be mad too if a Bigfoot stomped on those ferns or any flowers of mine, if I had any. The edge of three of them had been trampled. Something shimmered in the moonlight. At first, he mistook it for a drop of water, but it was too dark. Even in shadows, water didn't look like that. Kneeling in the grass, he pulled the fern out into the moonlight. Something wet and sticky soaked his bare kneecap. The gunshot went off. His father aiming across the highway at something on the Maccallum's property. Jumping to his feet in surprise, he jerked his chin down to see the same blackened liquid stain coating his knee. Staggering back, he heard his mother's frantic voice on the phone with the police. The neighbors were waking up. He heard Mr. Wong cursing something in Mandarin as he staggered into their backyard near the highway to argue with Jared's father. Mark's parents had their lights on, but they hadn't come out yet. His father was shouting at him, but it was as if he was shouting down a tunnel. Swaying on his feet, he leaned back against the side of the house. His heart jackrabbited when he saw the hand nested beneath the ferns, severed from the owner. It was a small, hairless human hand. His stomach twisted and he heaved at the sight. He sunk down the side of the house. If it was a hairless human hand, that Bigfoot probably already ripped it off of Brandon. I hate to say it, but I'll be having a stomach-turning moment too. I can't stand to see body parts ripped off of people. Ugh. Especially in movies. It's just so painful to look at. Jared's gaze swept a foot to the left, and in the darkness between the house and the bushes beside the fence was a tattered hunk of flesh. He wasn't sure what it could be. It was large, bloody, maybe a torso. His vision began to fade at the edges, and he felt as if he was going to vomit. He heard his name being shouted over and over in the distance, but when he tried to turn his head to look, his stomach reduced itself of its contents and everything went black. This time the eyes glowed with the aid of the headlights, and Jared was convinced he had seen something across the highway. What Brandon didn't mention about his research was children were admonished to ever speak the name STI'YAHA. For a long time, Jared and the figure across the highway stared at each other. The figure seemed shorter than he remembered. It had been over a week. He didn't think it would have made that much of a difference. After Brandon's body was found practically torn to pieces at the side of his house, he told everyone what he knew. They all thought he was crazy. His folks, the few other friends he had, the RCMP, and even the psychiatrist his parents hired, but he had done his homework. STI'YAHA, or like the old Indian had said, bent on making the world their own again. They were sheer evil, stealing horses and animals in the middle of the night. When children say their name, they snatched them away. Jared had never spoken their name, not once until now. Climbing over the fence, he took his time, carefully watching the dark figure. It didn't move to greet him. It didn't attack or disappear either. It just watched him, eyes glowing and unblinking when the single passing car sped between them. Reaching the edge of the highway, Jared waited as another car approached. He could have sprinted across in time, but he wanted a better view of his foe to gauge where it was and where to cross. His hand moved to his hip, ready to unsheath the fillet knife. The car zipped past, and for a moment he didn't think he understood exactly what he saw. "Mark?" he asked the dark. It couldn't be. The boy across the road looked haggard, dirty, and disheveled. He had the same dark hair, big dark eyes. He even looked as if he was wearing the same clothes the day he disappeared. Dark t-shirt and jeans, though they had been soiled beyond anything salvageable. "Mark!" he shouted and staggered forward. The look in Mark's eyes stopped him from coming any closer. The fetal stench had returned, forcing him back several steps, and he whipped the fillet knife from his belt, holding it out in front of him. He caught movement out of the corner of his eye, swinging the knife toward the trees. He made out a tall, lumbering figure just within the shadows. Freezing in place, he heard the thing grunt. The familiar gurgling undertone sent chills up his arms. Mark glanced at the creature and grunted back. It sounded nearly as fierce, but something had passed between the two of them, and understandably Jared couldn't quite grasp. "Mark, what's going on? Everyone thought you were dead." Mark peeled back his lips and hissed. Taking another step back toward the highway, Jared heard the car approach. It honked its horn as it roared by. The STI'YAHA. Jared pointed at the shadowy figure, trying to keep his face from scrunching due to the smell. "You're living with it." The words spoken out loud caused him to realize something. The beasts were seeking a way to revert the world back to its most basic primitive state. Why not recruit? Mark loved the idea of Bigfoot. Brendan said the name out loud. He had said the name out loud. They all did. "What happened to Brendan?" he asked Mark, caution ringing in his voice. Mark gurgled a response, which was replied by the monster in the shadows. To Jared, Mark spoke for the first time, his voice gruff and tainted, but clear enough to understand. "Why not find out?" Unprepared, Jared never saw the hand until it struck his head. His world tilted, and before he could protect himself, he landed in the grassy ditch on his side. Mark was on top of him in an instant, holding him down, his knee digging into his ribs. It was as if he didn't see the knife in Jared's hand, poised to use, though Jared didn't think he could anymore. He had expected a monster, and instead he got his best friend, Mark. "What are you?" "Come with me, Jared. Come with us." The way his voice hissed at the end of the word made Jared jerk and squirm to buck Mark off of him. "What? Where?" Yeah, that would be crazy to see that your best friend is now living with this Bigfoot creature, and he's acting more primitive now. That ain't good. Mark hopped off of him before he could start to protest, landing on his feet like a cat. He hunched his back, just like the STI'YAHA in town had a week ago. It was as if he was a mini Bigfoot in training. If it wasn't for the fierce shine to his eyes and the predatory stance, Jared might have thought it funny, though the memory of Brandon's bits against the side of his house removed any sense of humor from his thinking. To be like you or Brendan, Jared struggled to his feet. His movements were slow and even awkward compared to Mark's. "Brendan wussed out," Mark spat in disgust. "You won't, though. You and me, we could be like them, Jared, and take back what is ours." Swallowing hard, Jared adjusted his grip on the knife. sweat making it difficult to hold. He tried to image Mark doing that to their friend. No, not Mark. He couldn't have. It must have been the Bigfoot in the trees. He remembered a gruff howl as if it was yesterday, but Mark didn't seem the least bit remorseful. He didn't even try to stop it, and now their friend was dead because of him. Preparing himself for an attack, he said, You're nuts! Moving fast, Mark lunged himself at Jarrett, crashing together. They fell back on the highway. Jarrett stiffened his neck so not to crack his skull onto the pavement as Mark's weight pressed down on him. The headlights of an oncoming car veered, tires skidding on the road as the vehicle barely missed them. Mark landed on top of Jarrett, the air rushing from his lungs. The fillet knife had penetrated, sinking deep into his friend's stomach before either of them knew what happened. Warm, sticky blood coated his hand, and he saw the terrified expression on Mark's dirty face. Hair had sprouted on his face, hair that had been there before on his forehead and the bridge of his nose. You were supposed to join us, Mark said. Like Brendan? Jared asked. He couldn't stop the shaking in his hand as Mark rolled off of him with a groan. The large STI'YAHA thundered from the tree line. At first, Jared was certain it was coming for him to finish him off, but it ran straight for Mark. Mark mewed at it, an air of trust to his cry. The beast scooped him up in its oversized, hairy arms like an infant. Neither the STI'YAHA nor Mark saw the Mack truck as Jarrett scrambled for the edge of the road. The headlights illuminated their figures, but it was too late. Brakes squealed, headlights flared, and Jarrett felt two hands grab him from behind, lifting him from the ground. He screamed and yelled until he was spun around and found himself face to face with the Indian stranger in tattered clothes and wide-brimmed hat. We must run now, he said, eyes bright with a sharp intensity. They know you're scent. Wait, what? I killed it. My friend. He could be hurt. He glanced over his shoulder to see the hairy beast crumbled and bloodied on the road. Mark must have been thrown off to the side. Jared couldn't see him anywhere in the dark. The old Indian grabbed his arm hard. You think there is only one? You think they didn't all see? You're like me now, boy. We're fighting a battle here, you and I. If you want to survive, you run. Your friend is no more. He is STI'YAHA. The STI'YAHA ululation filled the mountain air, coating the town with its foreboding message. Pulled by his sleeve, Jared half ran, half stumbled with the stranger and jumped into the passenger side of the old sedan idling at the side of the road. His eyes rolled to the older man in the driver's seat, choking back the emotions that threatened to overtake the adrenaline. Noticing his stare, the man nodded. Name's Terry. Hearing his voice shuddered, Jared asked, Where are we going, Terry? Hunting, boy. We're going hunting. Might as well get acquainted with each other. We're on our own now. Jared had considered that this may be the last night he saw his family or what remained of his friends, but not like this. Wiping his bloody hand on his jeans, he felt silent as they drove down the highway. Terry said that they'd catch a hotel for some sleep and would start the next morning. The STI'YAHA knew them and would be hunting them from now on unless they got to them first. All right, that was the end of that chapter. Got one more chapter to go and I'm done reading this book. But I do feel sorry for that boy because he didn't want to end up stabbing his friend Mark, but he became a savage, basically, and he was trying to defend himself. But I'm glad the Indian came to that boy's rescue, and now they got to go on the hunt for them things. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more book reading content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.